Commander Vexarian of the Tholian Armada stood rigid on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His carapace gleamed under the harsh lighting as he surveyed the viewscreen displaying the small, blue-green planet. According to intelligence, this was the homeworld of a newly discovered species, humans from a planet they called Earth. Status report, Vexarian commanded, his mandibles clicking in anticipation. The planet has no defensive orbital platforms, minimal spacecraft capabilities, and their weapons technology is primitive, reported Lieutenant Cross. However, environmental scans are concerning. Vexarian tilted his head. Elaborate. The planet registers as a Class 9 death world, sir. Extreme temperature variations, intense gravitational pull, atmospheric oxygen levels that would be combustible by our standards, and radiation levels that should render complex life impossible. A murmur rippled through the bridge crew. The Tholian Empire had conquered 17 systems across 3 galactic arms, but they had never encountered a sentient species that evolved on anything beyond a Class 4 environment. Impossible, Vexarian dismissed. No intelligent species could evolve in such conditions. Recalibrate your instruments. Readings confirmed, Commander. And there's more. Our probes detected over 8,000 languages, hundreds of distinct nation-states in constant conflict, and a history of multiple global wars. They've even weaponized atomic energy against themselves. Vexarian's compound eyes narrowed. A species that survived its own nuclear weapons? He paused, considering. Fascinating. They'll make excellent slave soldiers for the Empire. Prepare a first contact delegation. I want to see these humans up close. The delegation shuttle descended toward what humans called Montana, a remote region selected to minimize witnesses. As it landed in a clearing surrounded by towering vegetation, the Tholian soldiers activated their protective suits. Even with filtration systems and cooling technology, the Earth environment would be barely tolerable. When the hatch opened, they were greeted by a lone human, a weathered male with skin tanned by constant solar exposure. He stood casually, hands in the pockets of his worn covering garments, regarding the aliens with surprising calm. Name's Thorn, the human said simply. I'm guessing you folks aren't from around here. Vexarian stepped forward, translator device activating. We are the Tholian Empire, and we claim this world in the name of Emperor Nexus the Eternal. Your species will submit or face extinction. The human named Thorn didn't flinch. Instead, he squinted at the sky, appearing to check the position of the sun. Well, that's mighty unfortunate timing on your part, he said, checking a primitive timepiece on his wrist. You see, you've landed right in the middle of our hunting season. In the distance, the distinctive crack of ballistic weapons echoed through the trees. And my buddies are real protective of our land. The Tholians raised their plasma rifles as movement registered in the surrounding woods. Vexarian realized too late that his initial assessment had been catastrophically wrong. They weren't facing a primitive species. They were facing Deathworlders on their home turf. The first blast took Vexarian's lead security officer's head clean off. The Tholian's exoskeleton, designed to withstand plasma fire and vacuum exposure, crumpled under the impact of what the humans later called a 30-06 hunting rifle. Defensive formation. Vexarian shrieked as his soldiers scattered. The primitive projectile weapons shouldn't have been capable of penetrating Tholian armor, but they hadn't accounted for the sheer kinetic force generated by Earth's high-gravity environment. Thorn had vanished into the treeline. More cracks rang out and 3 more Tholians fell. Their return fire scorched trees and earth but hit nothing. Back on the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Foros observed with mounting horror. What in the 7 netherhells is happening down there? He demanded. The humans are using the dense vegetation as cover, an analyst responded. They're adapting to our tactics instantaneously. And sir, we're detecting communications networks activating globally. Our presence has been discovered. On screens across the bridge, media feeds from the primitive planet flashed images of the Tholian craft. Within minutes, an impossibly short time frame, military forces from dozens of nations were mobilizing. This is unprecedented, Foros muttered. No species has ever organized a resistance this quickly. On Earth, Vexarian and his remaining troops retreated to their shuttle, taking heavy fire. As they lifted off, a primitive explosive device, what humans called a Molotov cocktail, struck their hull, igniting the external sensor array. The natives are coordinating, gasped Lieutenant Kraz, nursing a wound where a bullet had shattered his lower limb. They're using our technology against us already. One of them captured Mekris's scanner and reverse-engineered it within minutes. Vexarian couldn't process what he was hearing. Impossible. No species learns that quickly. But the evidence was unmistakable. As their shuttle limped back to the mothership, Earth's nations were already pooling their resources. Satellites were being repositioned. Nuclear arsenals placed on high alert. And most alarmingly, communications chatter revealed humans weren't panicking. They were excited. In a secure underground facility in what humans called Geneva, representatives from Earth's major powers gathered in emergency session. Among them was Dr. Oriel Blackwood, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the assembly, "what we've suspected for decades is now confirmed. We are not alone, and we are being assessed as a potential conquest." The room erupted in voices until General Kaito Blackwood, Oriel's brother and commander of Earth's newly formed Unified Defense Force, slammed his fist on the table. "The aliens' technology is advanced," he stated flatly, "but their biology is fragile. They can't handle our gravity, our atmosphere, or our pathogens. And from what we've seen, they've never faced a species that evolved on a world like ours." Dr. Blackwood nodded. "We've always wondered why we haven't encountered alien life before. Now we know, we're what the galaxy calls Deathworlders. And that may be our greatest advantage." The Tholian High Command was in disarray. What should have been a simple conquest had become a nightmare. 3 cycles had passed since first contact, and Earth's response defied all prediction algorithms. "They've adapted our shield frequencies," reported Science Officer Zyrex, mandibles trembling. "And they've developed countermeasures against our scanning technology. The humans call it stealth tech." Admiral Foros paced the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Oh. Their technological level was pre-interstellar. They shouldn't even understand our basic principles. "It's their evolutionary environment," Commander Vexarian explained, still recovering from his wounds. "These humans, they don't just survive on their death world, they thrive on challenge. Their recorded history is nothing but one existential threat after another, which they've overcome through adaptation and sheer tenacity." The tactical display flickered, showing Earth's crude but effective orbital defenses taking shape. Satellites had been weaponized. Ballistic missiles retrofitted with captured Tholian technology. And most concerning, the humans had somehow managed to create a rudimentary version of Tholian energy shields within days of examining the technology. On Earth, the Blackwood siblings led humanity's resistance from a repurposed missile silo in the Rocky Mountains. The bunker bustled with scientists, military personnel, and hackers, all working to reverse-engineer alien technology. "Their biology is fascinating," Dr. Oriel Blackwood mused, examining tissue samples taken from fallen Tholian soldiers. "Their homeworld must have 1/3 our gravity, minimal temperature variation, and almost no environmental toxins. They've evolved in a protected bubble, which makes Earth literal hell for them." General Kaito nodded, studying tactical displays. "And that's why we're going to take the fight to them." The plan was audacious. While the Tholians expected Earth to cower in defense, humanity prepared for an offensive no one saw coming. Commandeered civilian spacecraft were being retrofitted with hastily manufactured weapons based on Tholian designs. In what would later be called Operation Unexpected Visitor, 73 space shuttles, previously used for satellite deployment and space station resupply, were launched simultaneously from different points around the globe. Aboard one such craft, Lieutenant Riker Frost, a former Special Forces operator, led a team of 12 soldiers equipped with modified spacesuits. "Remember," he briefed his team, "we're dealing with an enemy that sees us as impossible. Use that psychological advantage. We don't need to defeat their entire armada, we just need to make them fear us enough to withdraw." As the human vessels approached, the Tholian fleet scrambled to respond. Their targeting systems, designed for conventional warfare, struggled to track the erratic flight patterns of human pilots who flew with a recklessness no sane Tholian would attempt. Admiral Foros watched in disbelief as the primitive spacecraft executed maneuvers that should have torn them apart. "What kind of creatures are these?" he whispered. The answer came moments later as Lieutenant Frost's team breached the hull of a Tholian cruiser. The aliens had never conceived of boarding actions. The concept of deliberately entering an enemy vessel was foreign to their strategic doctrine. Inside the alien ship, Frost's team moved with practiced precision, their bodies, evolved on a high-gravity world, giving them strength and speed that made them seem superhuman to the Tholians. "We've accessed their central computer core," Frost reported back to Earth Command. "Downloading their database now. And we've planted the package." The package was a simple message translated into Tholian language and broadcast to every ship in their fleet. Your conquest ends here. We are Earth. We are Deathworlders. And we're just getting started. The Tholian Emperor's hologram flickered with rage as he addressed Admiral Foros. Explain to me, he hissed, how a pre-interstellar species has managed to capture 5 of our warships and access our central database? Foros's carapace trembled. Your Eminence, we severely underestimated the humans. They are unlike any species we've encountered. Elaborate. Science Officer Zyrex stepped forward, projecting data onto the holographic display. The humans evolved on a planet that should have killed them thousands of times over. Their biology is ridiculously redundant. 2 lungs, a backup liver function, bone marrow that continuously creates blood cells. They can survive losing limbs, exposure to radiation, and atmospheric toxins that would dissolve our respiratory systems in seconds. The Emperor's compound eyes narrowed. And their mental capabilities? Even more concerning, Vexarian interjected. They possess pattern recognition abilities that border on prescient. Their military history reveals a species that constantly adapts, not over generations but within single battles. And their social structure. What about it? The Emperor demanded. They thrive on conflict, Your Eminence. Their greatest technological advances come during times of war. In peacetime, they create simulated conflicts they call sports and competition to channel their aggressive instincts. They're hardwired for confrontation, and they excel at it. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity's understanding of galactic politics expanded exponentially as they processed the stolen Tholian database. In a converted warehouse outside Beijing, Dr. Oriel Blackwood briefed the United Nations Security Council on their findings. The galaxy is divided between several major powers, she explained, pointing to a holographic map generated from Tholian data. The Tholian Empire is actually a mid-tier power, controlling about 67 star systems. But here's the crucial part. All known spacefaring civilizations evolved on what they classify as garden worlds, planets with stable climates, minimal predators, and low radiation. General Kaido picked up the thread. Earth, by contrast, is classified as a Class 9 death world. The Tholians have no protocols for dealing with us because, according to their records, no sapient species has ever evolved past the Stone Age on such a planet. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So we're an anomaly, said the Russian president finally. We're more than an anomaly, Dr. Blackwood corrected. We're their nightmare. A species forged in an environment they consider uninhabitable, with immune systems that can fight off planetary biohazards, musculature developed under crushing gravity, and nervous systems that can process information at speeds they consider impossible. The UN Secretary-General leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Doctor? I'm suggesting that we don't just drive them off. We need to establish ourselves as a power to be respected, or the next alien species might come with a bigger fleet. In the depths of the Eternal Dominion, a captured Tholian communications officer named Zex found himself face-to-face with Lieutenant Frost. After days of interrogation, the Tholian finally asked the question that had been haunting him. Why don't you just die when faced with overwhelming odds? It's illogical. Frost laughed, a sound the translator couldn't properly convey. That's your fundamental misunderstanding of humans, Zex. We don't see overwhelming odds as a reason to surrender. We see them as a challenge. A puzzle to solve. Hell, half our entertainment is based on overcoming impossible situations. He leaned closer to the Tholian's containment field. You evolved in paradise. We evolved in hell. And that makes all the difference. The Galactic Conclave, a loose federation of 17 spacefaring civilizations, convened an emergency session for the first time in 800 cycles. The appearance of a death world species with rapidly advancing technology had sent shockwaves through established galactic order. Ambassador Telix of the Myriad Collective addressed the assembly. The humans have captured Tholian vessels, accessed their technology, and are already implementing adaptations. At their current rate of progress, they'll achieve full interstellar capabilities within a single planetary rotation. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Such development speed was unprecedented. High Chancellor Vorla of the Etherian Republic raised a slender appendage. Perhaps we should consider containment protocols? You mean annihilation, countered Ambassador Nix of the Selenian Union. And I remind the Conclave that the last attempt to subdue these humans resulted in the Tholian Empire losing 11 warships. Do you propose we sacrifice more? On Earth, a delegation from the Galactic Conclave made planetfall under strict diplomatic protocols. They were received in a specially constructed chamber beneath the United Nations building in New York, one of the few structures that had survived intact during what humans now called the Three-Day War with the Tholians. Dr. Oriel Blackwood led the human negotiating team, accompanied by her brother and representatives from Earth's major powers. The aliens, a diverse group representing 9 different species, visibly struggled with Earth's gravity and atmosphere despite their protective suits. "We welcome you to Earth," Oriel began, "and appreciate your willingness to meet on our terms." The lead alien diplomat, a serpentine creature named Lithvor, inclined its head. "We come seeking understanding and peaceful resolution. Your species' emergence has disrupted certain assumptions about galactic development." General Kaido's expression remained stone-cold. "You mean you're terrified that we'll do to you what we did to the Tholian fleet?" A different alien, a crystalline entity that identified itself as Prism, vibrated in what the translators interpreted as nervous laughter. "Directness. Another Deathworld trait, it seems." "Yes, General. Your capabilities are concerning precisely because they are so unexpected." Dr. Blackwood spread her hands. "Then let's be direct. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We've spent enough of our history fighting each other. But we will not be subjugated, contained, or restricted. We claim the right to explore beyond our solar system, and to defend ourselves against any who would deny us that right." Lithvor's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. "You must understand, a species with your adaptability, your aggression, your ability to survive conditions we find lethal, it changes everything." "Change is the only constant in the universe," Dr. Blackwood replied. "And adaptation is humanity's specialty." The negotiations continued for 72 hours, a marathon session that left the alien diplomats exhausted while the humans rotated teams to stay fresh. By the end, a historic agreement emerged. The Galactic Conclave would recognize Earth's sovereignty and right to interstellar exploration. In exchange, humanity would agree to certain military limitations and establishing an embassy on the neutral world of Arxis Prime. As the alien delegation departed, Lithvor approached Dr. Blackwood privately. "There is something you should know," the alien said quietly. "You are not the only Deathworlders in the galaxy, merely the first to achieve spaceflight. The others, they were deemed too dangerous to contact." Oriel's eyes widened. "There are others like us?" "Not exactly like you, but evolved under extreme conditions. The Conclave has maintained a policy of quarantine around such worlds." Perhaps that was a mistake." "It was," Oriel agreed. "Isolation breeds suspicion. Engagement builds understanding." Lithvor's translator produced what might have been a sigh. "We shall see if your optimism is warranted, Doctor. For now, the galaxy watches Earth with great interest, and not inconsiderable fear." 5 years after first contact, Earth had transformed. The skylines of major cities now featured alien architectural influences, while orbital shipyards constructed vessels incorporating technology from a dozen different species. Humanity's advancement had accelerated beyond anyone's wildest predictions, even the humans themselves. Admiral Kaido Blackwood, now Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Fleet, stood on the observation deck of the ESS Prometheus, humanity's first true interstellar warship. Beyond the viewport stretched the vast shipbuilding complex that orbited Mars, where 20 similar vessels neared completion. "Impressive, isn't it?" said a familiar voice. Kaido turned to find his sister, now Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Conclave. "Oriel, I thought you were still on Arxis Prime." "I returned for the expedition launch." She joined him at the viewport. "The Prometheus is about to make history, the first human vessel to visit another death world." The expedition had been Oriel's brainchild, a radical proposal to contact the other quarantined species the Conclave had kept isolated. After years of diplomatic pressure, the Conclave had reluctantly agreed to allow humans to serve as intermediaries. "Are you sure this is wise?" Kaido asked, watching technicians prep the massive ship's final systems. "We barely understand our place in the galactic community, and now we're about to introduce more species like us?" Oriel smiled. "That's precisely why we must do this. The Conclave feared us because they didn't understand us. They quarantined these worlds out of the same fear. But we know better." On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Elara Voss reviewed final preparations with her executive officer, Commander Thorne, the same Montana rancher who had first encountered the Tholians 5 years earlier. "All departments report ready, Captain," Thorne announced. "Our Conclave observers are secured in their environmental chambers, and the first contact team is standing by." Captain Voss nodded. "Set course for Nemesis 9. Let's introduce ourselves to our fellow Deathworlders." The journey took 6 weeks, even with the advanced propulsion systems humanity had adapted from various alien technologies. As they approached Nemesis 9, a world with twice Earth's gravity and a caustic atmosphere, sensors detected the unmistakable signs of a developing civilization. They're approximately equivalent to our early industrial age, reported Science Officer Remco. But their metallurgy is remarkably advanced for their technological level. In orbit around Nemesis 9, the Prometheus deployed its specialized lander, designed specifically to handle extreme environments. Captain Voss led the first contact team personally, along with Dr. Blackwood, who had insisted on being present for this historic moment. As they descended through the toxic clouds, the team caught their first glimpse of the planet's dominant species, hexapodal beings with armored carapaces and multiple manipulating limbs, gathering around the landing site with primitive weapons at the ready. They're preparing to defend themselves, Thorne observed. Smart. Using protocols developed from humanity's own first contact experience, the team established a safe perimeter and deployed universal translator drones. After tense initial communications, the native leader, who identified itself as Korgmol, approached the human delegation. You come from beyond the sky, the alien stated, its translator converting complex vibrational speech. We have watched the stars for generations knowing we were not alone. Why have you come now? Dr. Blackwood stepped forward. Because like you, we evolved on a world that the rest of the galaxy considers uninhabitable. Like you, we were isolated because others feared what we might become. We're here to offer you a choice they never gave us, to join the galactic community on your own terms. Korgmol's sensory appendages quivered. You are, like us? Forged in fire and pressure? We call ourselves Deathworlders, Thorne said with pride. It's a name others gave us out of fear. We've embraced it. Over the following days, the humans shared their history with the natives of Nemesis 9, who called themselves the Vorkai. They explained the galactic political landscape, the technological exchange that had accelerated Earth's development, and the alliance they hoped to build among Deathworld species. As the Prometheus prepared to depart, Captain Voss presented Korgmol with a communication device that would allow the Vorkai to contact Earth directly, bypassing the Conclave's quarantine protocols. This is against the Conclave's wishes, she explained honestly. But we believe every sentient species has the right to determine their own destiny. Korgmol accepted the device with a ceremonial gesture. The strong survive by adaptation but thrive through cooperation. We will remember that Earth extended its hand to us before any other. Aboard the Prometheus, as they broke orbit, the Conclave observers registered formal protests about the communication technology left behind. Ambassador Blackwood received their complaints with diplomatic politeness but unwavering resolve. The age of quarantine is over, she told them. The Deathworlders of the galaxy will forge their own path forward, hopefully alongside the Conclave but without you if necessary. In the ship's observation lounge, Thorne stood with Admiral Blackwood, watching Nemesis 9 recede in the distance. 5 more Deathworlds on our expedition route, Thorne remarked. Think they'll all be this receptive? Kaido shook his head. Doubtful. But that's the thing about us Deathworlders. We adapt to whatever challenges come our way. Across the galaxy, news spread of humanity's defiance of Conclave protocols. Some worlds called for sanctions. Others began reaching out to Earth independently, seeking alliances with these remarkable creatures who had gone from planetary civilization to interstellar power in less than a decade. On Arxis Prime, the Conclave entered its 3rd straight day of emergency session. The balance of power that had remained stable for millennia was shifting dramatically. Several delegations had already announced their intention to establish direct diplomatic ties with Earth, bypassing traditional Conclave procedures. Lithvor watched the proceedings with a mixture of concern and fascination. An aide approached, delivering a private message. The humans had made contact with a second Deathworld species, these even more physically imposing than themselves. It appears we have entered a new era, Lithvor murmured to no one in particular. The age of the Deathworlders has begun. Aboard the Prometheus, as it set course for the next world on its journey, Captain Voss recorded her personal log. When aliens first came to Earth, they expected to find easy conquest. Instead, they discovered that evolution on a Deathworld creates something uniquely resilient. Our strength isn't just in our bodies, adapted to harsh conditions, but in our minds, forged by constant challenge. Where others see impossibility, we see opportunity. Where they see danger, we see adventure. She paused, watching the stars streak by as the ship accelerated. The galaxy feared Deathworlders because they couldn't understand how we think. They've spent millennia avoiding challenges, We've spent our entire existence overcoming them. That fundamental difference is why even the deadliest warriors flee when Deathworlders come, not because we're unstoppable but because we simply don't know how to stop. In the vastness of space, the Prometheus continued its journey, carrying humanity's greatest gift to their fellow Deathworlders, the knowledge that they were no longer alone.